Well, as always, ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome. Hope everybody's doing well for this episode of Karls Spirits. This is episode 44, and tonight we're going to be tasting Rough Rider Double Cask Straight Bourbon Whiskey. I want to thank our friends at Barrel 131 for tonight's pour. Guys, please go out and help support our local spirits shop here in Jackson. That's Barrel 131. They are open. They are ready for your business. They're at Barrel 131. So a little bit about Rough Rider really quick. This is a product of Long Island Spirits, a distillery that's only been around since 2007 on Long Island, New York. And it is the first distillery on Long Island since the 1800s. Now, you're probably saying to yourself right now, maybe we're doing another New York bourbon. Yes, we are. We're going to do another New York bourbon tonight. A little bit about this. This was the grounds of the distillery. Once belonged to a Polish immigrant family who actually changed their name to Columbus so they would sound more American to their neighbors. And today, the distillery at Long Island Spirits is surrounded by centuries-old potato farms. So this kind of sounds like the beginning of a vodka commercial or a vodka review rather than a bourbon review. The name Rough Rider, of course, takes its name from another Long Island native, General and later President Theodore Roosevelt. Now, in 1898, Theodore Roosevelt was in on the beginning of the Spanish-American War as Assistant Secretary to the Navy. He began to help recruit the first United States Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, and comprised of a bunch of his buddies from Ivy League schools, Harvard and Yale, professional sports players, policemen, thieves and highwaymen, old Indian fighters, miners, cowboys, Indians themselves, or Native Americans, I should say, and even, as Roosevelt liked to joke, one fellow from the IRS. These gentlemen saw action in the Spanish-American War. They went to Cuba, and they fought in the very pivotal Battle of San Juan Hill, all under the leadership of Colonel Roosevelt. Later, he's going to be promoted to general and awarded the Medal of Honor. So these men are born for adventure. They're willing to take risks for independence, and the Rough Riders, of course, found glory. Rough Rider Bourbon seeks to capitalize on that lineage and fame to promote their bourbon to adventurous souls today. Now, I need to also mention that this particular bourbon is double casked, which means that they are going to be aged for about 4 years, dumped, and then rebarreled. And in the case of Rough Rider, they're going to do it a little bit differently than some of the other double barrels we've seen. They're going to be barreled in Merlot or Chardonnay casks from local Long Island wineries after they've been washed with a very high proof brandy. So we've got a lot of different flavors going on here. We've got the bourbon spirit itself going into a barrel, pulling out all those caramels and oak flavors out of the original white oak. They're then going to be dumped into a new barrel that has remnants of Merlot or Chardonnay or high-proof brandy. So we've got a lot of different things going on here. This is similar in many ways to like Angel's Envy. It's a cask finish. Angel's Envy uses a port, I believe, or a brandy. I don't remember. Anyway, in the glass, we're going to be talking about this particular drink, this Rough Rider Double Cask. 60% corn, 35% rye. So it is a high rye. 5% malted barley, aged for about 4 years, bottled at 90 proof. As you can see, it's a pretty light amber. However, the legs, while they're on the thinner side, are really, really sticky. So there's something going on in the glass here. On the nose, this nose is really very good. It has a nice warm butterscotch. It's like those old butterscotch candies when they get kind of warm next to grandma's oven. I nose this pour. That's the very first thing I get. The other thing I really notice on the nose for this is there is not a very noticeable alcohol aroma. For such a young bourbon, being about 4 years, there is no real discernible alcohol note. The more I nose this, the more I get a little bit more mint on the nose. It opens up a little bit as it airs, and I get a little bit of mint. Taste. I have two very prominent tastes right off the bat. First, it's very fruit forward. It's not a dark fruit, but a light summer fruit. I'm talking apples and pears. The second note is a definite note of that mint I've found on the nose. In fact, mint quickly takes over with just a hint of cinnamon on the end. It's a very thin mouthfeel, but oily, if that makes any sense. It doesn't coat well, but there is a little bit of oily texture to it. For me, the finish on this is relatively short, but it's got a little bit of burn on the back of the tongue, on the upper throat. I don't feel it down in my chest. To me, it's almost a classic cinnamon and white pepper on the finish. So, my takeaway on Rough Rider. I assume that the fruity taste I'm getting, that apple or pear, is coming from probably the wine, probably the Chardonnay or something like that. Um, or it might be coming from that high proof brandy that was used to wash that second cask. I'm not really sure where the mint comes from, but I have caught that flavor on several other bourbons. This particular one has that mint flavor in abundance. It's about $30 a bottle. It's not a terrible buy. I like mint gum. Heck, I even like Rolaids that are mint flavored. I don't like mint in my bourbon though. This just doesn't set real well with me. This is not the worst bourbon I've had since we started doing these tastings, but it's a far cry from one of the better ones. For me, the lack of finish and that one-dimensional mint flavor really assigns a Carl rating of about 2.25 stars. 2.25, 2.25 stars for Rough Rider Double Cask. The nose, I think, is absolutely the best part of this. It's a wonderful nose. It just doesn't quite follow through on taste or particularly the finish. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my personal thoughts on Rough Rider Double Cask Straight Bourbon Whiskey out of New York. As always, stay safe, peace, and happy pours.